Hello all, welcome back to our channel, Stock to Off-Road Machine. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, keep up to date with our channel. A lot more to come, a lot more mistakes, and a lot more off-road adventures.
3, 2, 1, hardwired.
So when you get started, make sure you crack all your wheel nuts and the locking hub nuts, because once you jack the car, you ain't gonna crack them unless you have someone to sit there and put their foot on the brake, jack the car up, put it on stands, and continue to remove the wheel and the other components to get your axle shafts out. Now when removing the brake pads, it's quite easy. 2 bolts, pull them off, but make sure you have a bit of wire or something to put them up on. I didn't on this video, and it was a little bit of a mistake. It kind of put a little bit too much pressure on the brake line and almost broke it at one point. Now when removing the wheel hub, the seal on the back makes it quite difficult because it's stuck on there. But if you pull it off and pry it, just be gentle with it. You don't want to put too much pressure on it and end up breaking the wheel seal, especially if you're going to end up reusing the wheel seal and the bearings that are inside of the hub. It's not that hard, but it is a little bit of a pain in the behind, but you can get it done quite easily. As you can see, I'm using a punch here to get the wheel bearing lock nut to come off, then remove the front bearing and had to pry it off. Now the next part is removing the brake shield and the outer lock bit of your shaft. That's quite easy. I found out after I tried to remove the shaft, there's 2 little flat bits on your axle. You line them up top to bottom and it comes out quite easy, goes in quite easy. You just make sure you have those flat bits top, bottom, and use your locking hub to twist your axle. It makes it a lot easier than trying to twist it by hand. Now the fun starts. Removing the tail shaft, I found it easier getting inside of the car, putting it in low range 4-wheel drive to crack all the nuts off the tail shaft itself and remove it. Then it's removed the outer housing off the differential. Now don't forget to remove the tie rod end, as you can see right behind the differential housing. I forgot that it gets in the way. Remove it, don't do the same mistake that I made and try to remove it with it there.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll.
With the brake line bracket and the brake lines, all that you really need to do is just undo it, slightly bend them out of the way of the housing so you can remove it freely without bending and breaking the brake lines.
Never trust, yeah. No, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go.
Once you have the tie rod all undone, all that you have to do is give it a quick tap with a hammer, tap it on the side, tap it up. I had to put the nut back on and give it a quick tap on the shaft because it just did not want to release. It still didn't want to release, so I hit it a little bit harder and bingo, got it undone.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Okay, once all that's all done, the fun part is removing the crown from the differential center. I would say get yourself a rattle gun. It makes it a lot easier because they use that much Loctite from factory that it's a little bit ridiculous. Make sure you clean up all the threads after removing them and the surfaces because you don't want that Loctite in between the crown and the differential center. Now to put the crown on the new differential, I would suggest if it doesn't slide on easily, put it in the oven, heat it up. It will expand and go on there quite easy, but be careful when trying to put it on there straight out of the oven. It is quite hot, but it makes the job a lot easier. In my case, I didn't have to put it in the oven and heat it up. It just slipped straight on. Then I used a couple of bolts to seat it, put it in place, tightened them all up. Took one bolt out at a time and put a little drop of Loctite, one drop of Loctite on each bolt and put them all back in there and tightened them up. I couldn't find any specific torque setting in the manual to set it up. Then I had to take the whole lot to a friend to get him to help me do the backlash and everything can set everything up right on it. And then here's the fun part. Installing it, it was not an easy job, but I ended up getting it done in the long run. Take your time. Try to get a mate to help you lift up the center in there and put everything back together the opposite way you pulled it apart. Make sure everything's tight as you go along. Okay, before you end up putting the brake disc back on there, make sure you clean the seal, clean the bearings, get everything as clean as possible. You don't want any dirt or contaminants inside of there. Put grease on the seal, re-grease the bearings, because if you have any dirt or contaminants in there when you put it together, it will destroy your bearings within the first 300 kilometers, and you end up having to pull it apart, pull the bearings off, get bearing pulls and all these other tools that you need to pull it off, because the bearings are known to get stuck on the stub axle itself, or you would have to replace the whole stub axle because it's been destroyed by the bearing seizing and the inside spinning on the stub axle. Now, I didn't tighten up the wheel bearings here properly. I'd done that on purpose. Put the lock hub back on there so I wouldn't get contaminants in there or anything like that during the process of putting the wheel, the brake, and everything back on there properly. I also cleaned the brake disc because I ended up getting greasy fingerprints and oil all over them, and I didn't want them to heat up and me to cause it to catch fire. Okay, now the wheel's back on there. You can remove the locking hub and make sure the wheel bearings are tight. It makes it a lot easier to make sure the bearings seat, because you can spin the wheel and get the bearings to shift and move, and then tighten and tighten and tighten and get them tight right, and make sure the wheel doesn't have any wobble from top to bottom. Pull it out the top and wobble it. You don't want any wobble there, but you don't want it to be that binded that you can't spin the wheel.
When we were so young, I could never see forever. We'd go midnight driving down that lane, pretending the whole world was lame.
Now all that job's done. Now the fun part begins, but make sure you put oil back in your front differential. It takes around about 5.8 litres. That's what the book recommends. But the fun part is doing all the wiring. Make sure all the tubes are run right and you've got the air compressor mounted where you want it mounted. But the good news is you don't need to do it again once you get your rear locker, because it's the same air compressor, same wiring.
Why do we need the thrill to be happy? Nothing does I feel the love now, don't we? We'll go eventually, what goes up must come down.
Sorry I didn't record very much of this process. There was a lot of swearing, cursing, and a lot of me going nuts because running the wiring was quite difficult. Same with all the air tubes and getting them to run right and neatly. Thank you for everyone for watching another Epic Storm video. Keep tuned for more. Hit the like and subscribe button and visit our online store and help us run this channel.
We could be legend. I have nothing to lose. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Wake up. I know what's real. Escape reality. Hardwired.